Welcome to the 2024 NBA Draft on Restream. We are about to go live on TalkShoe as well. Chris Ransom here. My co-host Joseph Potter is also with me. The draft has not started yet, but we've got everything organized, crisis averted, just survived a potential tornado warning. And let me tell you, I had both of my computers in the restroom ready to go, but the tornado passed Carnegie. It's heading towards Monroeville. So if you're in Monroeville and you're listening to this podcast, you're on YouTube listening to our live stream, take shelter. But feel free to continue listening as Joey and I keep you updated on the draft if you're in Monroeville, Pennsylvania, because we want our listeners to be safe. Safety is important in a situation like this. I don't care if it's hurricane season in Florida or tornado season in Pennsylvania. In a situation like this where weather can play a factor into draft night, you have to take shelter and be prepared to pivot at any point. But yeah, that being said, the NBA draft is finally here, Joey. What do you want to add to contribute to this draft? Because I think it's going to be a fun night. We've already heard a lot of trades. There was the Cavs got a player from Brooklyn. We've also heard that the Wizards have traded for Malcolm Denny, their second best scorer, to Portland for Malcolm Brogdon. I really don't understand the thought process behind that trade. Avdiji's one of the better small forwards. I know he's not really a star player in your eyes, but he's been very consistent since entering the NBA. He's only going to get better. So it's going to be interesting. How are you feeling, man? Are you feeling better? That's good to hear. That's very encouraging. I'm glad to hear that, man. I've seen the tape of him making three-pointers in warm-ups, but a lot of scouts don't want to give him credit in that respect. But I make sure a player has short range, medium range, long range. The passing, do they block? Do they rebound? Do they steal basketballs? How consistent are they in all areas of the game? That's basically been my thought process with evaluating basketball players for years. And the National Weather Service has interrupted Adam Silver, ladies and gentlemen. My mom said the tornado passed and it's heading towards Monroeville. Even showed me a screenshot. We're not going anywhere, but I just think it's hilarious that the National Weather Service has the audacity to interrupt a commissioner. I do think that's hilarious. Can you imagine how much backlash the National Weather Service would get if they did this during the NFL draft, Joey? A National Weather Service would be trending on Twitter. Like, I'm not even pissed. I'm just having fun at this point until it goes away, until the weather update goes away, because we're already live. I'm not, my microphone's not plugged in. I'm about to plug that in right now. It's going to be Rasacher if the Hawks do not draft for need. It's going to be Rasacher. He's the favorite to go number one. I would give it a B-. Rasacher's the number 2 player on my board, but Atlanta's got 3 small forwards that are averaging 10 points a game. They've got DeAndre Hunter, their top 5 pick from 2019 from the Virginia Cavaliers. They've got Bogdan Bogdanovic, who they traded for in Sacramento in the Kevin Huerter deal. And they also have Saddiq Bey, who actually led the Atlanta Hawks in minutes and still averaged over 10 points a game at small forward, who's an RFA. So the Hawks have 3 legitimate small forwards, and Bogdanovich can play shooting guard as well as a backup. So I really don't understand what the hell Atlanta's doing if they go Rasacher. It's an A grade in terms of value, but it's a D plus grade if Rasacher ends up being your 4th string small forward and you take him number 1 and he's 4th on the depth chart. Then it's a horrible pick, and it's the type of pick that could push Trae Young out of Atlanta. That's why I'm kind of nervous for Atlanta Hawks fans, because Rasacher could end up being the starting small forward, but he could also be the number 4 guy unless Atlanta trades somebody away. And I'm sure they have plans, because Atlanta's GMs already came out and said Jalen Johnson, 2021 first-round pick at power forward, is the only player that's safe. Everyone else is available for the right price. So even though I wouldn't blow up the Atlanta Hawks personally, it does sound like there are some people that aren't totally opposed to blowing up the Atlanta Hawks either. So we'll see what happens with the Hawks. And Atlanta's on the clock. It sounds like Rasacher is going to be the pick. Has that been confirmed yet, Joey? Because the Tornado has not. Well, they're showing Rasacher on the screen. That's usually an indicator of that being the pick. But I don't think the draft timer has started yet. Has it? Cam Reddish, I believe, Brooklyn is going to I believe it's the other guy from French, Zachary Rasacher. It is Rasacher. There's some people saying this is a C grade or a D grade. I would say it's a D plus from a value, from a team need. A from a value since he's my number 2 player, but D plus from a team value. So that averages out to a B minus. But if Joey wants to try to get me to bump that up to a B or a B plus or even an A minus, I'm going to give him the floor. Or if he thinks I'm being too lenient with the B minus grade, he has a chance to try to get me to bump that down to a C plus. I'm going to let him pitch his case for Rasacher, because that is the pick. Hasn't been confirmed yet, but everybody who's leaked these mock drafts has reported that's the pick for number 1. I had 2 blue chip players, Sar and Rasacher. Rasacher's my number 2 player. I don't hate this pick, but I can't give it an A plus, because I think their biggest position of need is center, with Capella being the only UFA in 2025. But I think you can argue A. I think you can argue as low as D plus 2 if you think he's the 4th best small forward on Atlanta, behind Bey, behind some of these other guys, whether it be Sadiq Bey, DeAndre Hunter, or Bogdan Bogdanovic. If you think he's 4th among that group, you can argue D plus or even D from a need standpoint. But I think you can also argue A from a value standpoint. So that averages out to a B minus. So that's why I have a B minus. But I'm going to give Joey the opportunity to pitch me a better grade. Do you think I'm being too harsh, or do you think that is? He, yeah. He's 6'9", 204. I have him listed as a small forward. I think he can defend the 1, 2, or 3. 10.1 points per game, 3.8 rebounds, 0.9 assists. So, yep. And I don't think he's good enough to replace DeAndre Hunter, who was drafted in the top 5 right out of the gate as a rookie. I do like his potential, but at the same time, I don't think he's a guy who's going to replace DeAndre Hunter, your 5th pick in 2019 from the Luka Doncic trade right out of the gate. I think his floor for year 1 is number 4 small forward if you keep Bay. I think his ceiling is backup to DeAndre Hunter. And it feels weird to say that about a number 1 pick. I mean, I probably should have put more stock in the rumor than I did, but I figured, you know what, that is BS. There's no way they're going to pass on Sarr or Klingland. But there were a lot of rumors leading up to the draft that Rasacher is the player they wanted. And yes, I saw Rasacher make short range, medium range, and long range shots. He can make all the shots. I'm not concerned about his shooting, his versatility as a scorer. That's one of the reasons why I had a blue chip grade on him. But at the same token, 6'9", 204, you have DeAndre Hunter, you have Sadiq Bey, you have Bogdan Bogdanovic as your 6th man at both the 2 at shooting guard and both the 3 at small forward. You could legitimately argue that Rasacher is a better version of Bogdanovic, who's a shooting guard and small forward off the bench as a 6th man. You can legitimately argue that because of his size. So So I did give them a B minus. Do you think that's harsh, or do you think that's right about the appropriate grade to give? And I'll go in. I'll make sure I get everything. What grade would you give this pick, in your honest opinion? He might be Atlanta's best defender outside of Hunter, but I'm just not sure he's a day 1 starter. All right. I think he's a scorer. That's his biggest strength is his shooting. When I watched him back in November, his shooting was his biggest asset outside of his defending, and his defending was his number 2 trait. I feel like if this pick backfires and Dalton Neck goes on to have a better career than him, that Atlanta could be looking at a situation where they got to trade Trae Young in 2026 in his contract year and take what they can get. So that's the thing. Rasacher, I don't think he'll be ready to start until 2026, and by that point, Atlanta's probably going to move Hunter, and they're probably going to move Trae Young, and they're probably going to blow up the team if they can't make it back to the Eastern Conference Finals in the next 2 years. Because Trae Young wants to win, and there's too much talent on this team to settle. It sounds like Alexander Sarr is going to be the number 2 pick for the Wizards. And everybody else had Sarr at number 2. I know they kind of leaked the NBA picks. No, I don't want the timer. Please go back to the screen. So it is Alexander Sarr, the number 1 player on my board, goes to the Wizards at number 2. Are you kidding me? Frickin' Restream X out of my NBA draft results page. So not only do I have the grade typed, but Restream decides to beat Google. I'm not blaming Restream. I'm angry, but I'm not going to blame Restream. I'm angry that Google X'd me out, but that's my own fault. That is my own fault, nobody else's. But yeah, Alexander Sarr, really good value pick for Atlanta at number 1. You need to, yeah, so Rasacher, Alexander Sarr is in fact the number 2 pick. I'm going to give this an A+. Sarr was my number 1 player, and the Wizards needed a center to round out that starting 5, and they got their guy. So I think the Wizards are, but at the same time, it does feel like the Wizards are still going to have to rebuild. Alex Sarr has the floor of Jamal Wiseman bust that failed with the Warriors and Pistons, but he also has the ceiling of a poor man's Victor Wembanyama. So it's really hard to project how that's going to translate to the NBA. But at the same time, Sarr was my number 1 player back in October. He still ended the draft process as my number 1 player, but he averaged less points a game on perf in France compared to overtime elite. And that's the big knock on Sarr. I mean, neither one of these French players was as good as Victor Wembanyama was. But yeah, Sarr is the number 2 pick. That's officially official. And the Wizards get that last player they need to round out the starting 5. So I think that's a great pick for them. How do you feel about this fit, Joey? Do you think?
Than I am. But, you know, both of them have high potential.
I mean, Rasat, you look at, I'm looking here. Tyus Jones is the point guard. You have Jordan Poole. You have Corey Kispert is now the starting small forward. Corey Kispert, because they had 2 small forwards that averaged 10 points a game. So, I mean, just looking at Washington, they're in a good spot. And you can upgrade. You got Brogdon in that trade as well. So you got Malcolm Brogdon probably starting at point guard in a contract year. You also got the 14th pick. I don't think Washington's a playoff team, even with Sarr, because they just have too many holes. There's going to be some growing pains with Sarr. And Washington, it's blatantly obvious Washington's trying to tank in this rebuild. And hey, if you get Sarr, you've got a shot at Cooper Flagg, the Duke small forward / power forward. You can make him your new number 3 if Kispert does not take that leap in year 3. And the Rockets pick is in, so this has gone a lot faster than I anticipated it would. I'm just basically I'm just trying to copy as many notes I have on Sarr as possible and paste them. I believe Reed Thompson will go 3rd. And if he does, I could just copy and paste that and update number 2 and number 3. If it's Reed Sheppard and you already know it's Reed Sheppard, feel free to interrupt me like Oren does and leak the pick. Well, Sarr compared himself to Evan Mobley and Anthony Davis. Those are the 2 guys he compared himself to. I see him as more of a Jaren Jackson type. Well, he's going to be the backup shooting guard. He's not even going to be starting this year. He's going to be the backup. You have Freddie Van Vliet, Jalen Green, Dylan Brooks, Jabari Smith Jr., and you have Sengun, that center they drafted at 16. So they've got a good starting 5, and they've got good bench players. They just need a backup shooting guard to round out the lineup, and they got Reed Sheppard, which is what I expected to do. Yeah, so an A+ for the Wizards, an A+ for an A+ for the Wizards, and an A+ for the Rockets. I definitely think the Rockets are heading in the right direction. And I can just copy and paste the pick and then post the grade. I know copying and pasting is kind of lazy, but like I can just do that and I'm updated. Just like that, I'm updated on my content. So, I can just do that and I'm updated. It's very easy. I can just take the write-up in its entirety from my mock draft and then just post it to the NBA draft results page. That's really all I got to do. And that's the thing. You've got to pay attention to betting favorites. I overlooked the fact that Risacher was the betting favorite because Atlanta's need at center, in my opinion, was far greater than their need for a small forward. But they draft a 4th small forward. Right now, Art Yamlashunov's the favorite to go to Chicago at number 2 on Friday night in the NHL draft, but the Blackhawks owner went to Russia. I think that's an indicator that Tracy Porter was right and they're going to pick Demidov. When you own a hockey franchise and your owner decides to go to Russia, that's a pretty significant investment, Joey. Just saying. Yeah, so the Rockets get their guy, and it's been a very interesting night. But, Reed Sheppard, this is a pick I expected to happen. The top 3's gone exactly as expected. It's just 1 and 2 went the opposite way I expected. but no real surprises in this top 3 yet. And this is the 3rd draft Joey's helped me cover this year. He's helped me with both the WNBA and NBA drafts as well as the NFL, and he'll be here on Saturday for rounds 2 through 7 of the NHL draft. We'll also recap round 1. He might do the MLB draft. Hasn't decided yet. It's compelling because there's a lot of good players in the MLB draft, but at the same time, he just might not have the time due to his schedule. But it's compelling enough to where he's on the fence about it because the Guardians have the number 1 pick. But we'll worry about that later. The Spurs still have 2 minutes to submit a selection. So, yeah, the Rockets. All right, so who's in the chat here? 41 people in the chat. Okay. We'll find out what the Spurs are going to do. I expect it to be Stephon Castle. I think they will announce any minute, but they haven't really. Yep, Evan Sitterly, Stephon Castle. Stephon Castle's officially the pick. So all I got to do is copy and paste my Spurs write-up from my mock draft, and then I'm pretty much done. This is why team sources don't even make it a secret. It's too easy. So yeah, another A+ pick is. Okay, there's way too many. Yeah, so Stephon Castle should be the pick. I will confirm one more time from another source before I post the pick. I will confirm from another source on Twitter before I validate that. Because Evan Sitterly leaked the pick 32 seconds ago. Back to Back has now leaked the pick. Shams Charania has leaked the pick. So it is Stephon Castle. That is officially official. This is my favorite thing about the NBA draft is you got all these people leaking the pick like the NFL draft, and when I'm right, I can just copy and paste the write-up, talk about the pick, have some fun, and move on to the next player. But yeah, looking at the Spurs, Stephon Castle, a right player for them. I like Stephon Castle. I think this is the right player to pair with Victor Wembanyama. I think he's going to compete with Trey Jones for the starting point guard job. He should win it. If he doesn't, okay, you can develop him for a year off the bench as a combo guard. But I do expect him to be the starting point guard on the Spurs. Because Trey Jones went from 12 points a game in his 3rd year to 10 points a game this past season. He's 2020 second round pick in the final year of his deal. So I do think Stephon Castle's one of these guys who's going to potentially have an immediate impact. Played a big part in Connecticut's championship team. And look, Castle only interviewed with 3 teams in the top 10 because he was stubborn and hell-bent on being a point guard. But one of the teams that fell in love with him in the interview process was the Spurs. And that's all it takes to get picked sometimes, Joey. And the Spurs' track record with NBA players is pretty good. Just their track record of drafting in general, whether you're in a rebuild, whether they're contending, their track record's pretty good. So I do.
Another thing that he has going for him is he is a gold medalist. He's on the center before his freshman year. He is a gold medalist, but in a high pressure situation.
Big East Freshman of the Year. I didn't add that to my write-up. I probably should. That's a big. So yeah, I mean, looking at things right now, I would say, and I'm just making sure. Yeah, so we've got pretty much everything. But Castle can play point guard or shooting guard. I think the Rockets and Spurs are gonna. The Mavericks might. The crazy thing is, the Rockets and Spurs both have better starting lineups than the Mavericks, but they don't have They don't have a player who's been to the finals like Luka Doncic has. But I do think the Western Conference is only going to get more competitive in the coming years with San Antonio, with Houston. I think both of those teams have a chance to make the play-in tournament this year. Too early to say if either team makes the playoffs, but I think both of the Rockets and Spurs have the pieces to at least get to the play-in tournament. Because, the Spurs had 3 potential 20-point scorers. If Keldon Johnson, Devin Vassell, and Wembanyama all avoid injuries, that's 3 20-point scorers. I don't think Castle necessarily brings that to San Antonio, but he brings that facilitating aspect that the Spurs want from a true point guard. And I think he will have incredible chemistry with Victor Wembanyama, Joey. So, that's the thing I'm looking at here. Pistons are on the clock at 5. Reed Shepard is the next Nick Stauskas. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Jordan Alexander, friend of mine who talks NBA draft with us, he's the picks for the Cardinals in the group mock, called Reed Shepard the next Nick Stauskas. Is that a good thing or a bad thing, Joey? Nick Stauskas. I have never heard of that guy.
I know mine better. I like my person better. Jerry Sheehan. Old Tony Brother. Backup Timber. Dead-Eye Shear. The Defender. That on the bench. There's really no drop-in production from your starters. Obviously, it's not going to be as good of a starter, obviously, be a starter. But I respect him or something. The same way Sheehan started on to another NBA team during the mid-80s, even then a starter. Just take the point.
Yeah, everybody's saying to hold your horses about Matas Buzelis to the Pistons because there is some traction. The Wizards and Hornets are having a bidding war with the Pistons for the number 5 pick, reportedly. That's why the Pistons haven't turned their card in, according to insiders. We could have our first trade at 5 here. Could also be a smokescreen, but that is interesting. That's an interesting note with 2 minutes to go, that the Wizards are trying to move up to 5.
I'm hearing the Pistons have their pick, but that would, if they have their pick, that would explain why it's not it yet.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. The Pistons, they have Oscar Thompson as a starting small forward. So if they don't really like anyone on the board here at 5, they can move down. They zoomed in on Donovan Clingan, the Connecticut center. I have to think somebody's moving up for Klingland ahead of Charlotte if their ESPN showing him, or the Pistons have selected Klingland in a surprise decision. Ron Hall, Shams is saying Donovan Klingland is the pick. Waj is saying it's Ron Holland. I believe it's Ron Holland. I had Holland at 3rd on my board, but I didn't think he would go this early. But, that's a surprisingly smart decision by the Detroit Pistons. But the thing with Holland is he gets in foul trouble. Had three fouls in 18 of his 29 games, and he had 4 fouls in 13 of his 29 games. So ESPN showing Donovan Clingan, but Woj has already leaked the pick, and that it is so I think it's hilarious how ESPN is trying to bait and switch people, since most people are assuming what's going to happen based on various mock drafts. So ESPN's trying to trick everybody so they can create that top 5 shock value moment. Since the top four's gone as expected, there's no shock value. That pisses off ESPN, so they put the camera on Donovan Klingland. Woj has said the pick's going to be Ron Holland, and ESPN's basically just making a blatant attempt to create shock value, even though there's no shock value to be had. What do you think of this? I think this was the right player to pick. I had this guy at number 2 on my board in October. This is Wes's number 1 player in the entire draft.
I do like that he's young.
You know, he led his high school to 3 consecutive state championships before making the jump to Ignite after graduating high school. So he led his team to a state title as a freshman, sophomore, and junior, lost in the semifinals as a senior.
I like his defensive game. I really think he needs to play for a better.
I'm going to give this an A, but not an A+ grade, Joey. Is that fair? Because I feel like I've saturated this top 5 with A+ grades. So I'll give the Pistons an A, but not an A+.
For me, he has a great chance to develop. I think he needs to play for a better developmental team for this year.
But he's going to the Pistons, where he will compete with Oscar Thompson, last year's number 5 pick, on Overtime Elite for that small forward job. And if he can't win that job, he'll play off the bench. If he does win that job, he'll be thrust into the lineup right away.
Yeah, and there are rules where you can be acclimated from the D-League to the main roster, so if just in the D-League, it's not exactly the end of the world.
Yeah. And you can play him off the bench as well. I don't think he's going to the G League. I think he will play right away. And Ron Holland, I'm kind of surprised this ended up being the pick, but I'm not upset with it. And there's a lot of people saying the Pistons made a smart decision.
And multiple teams trying to trade up with Charlotte.
I believe Charlotte needs a shooting guard, and there's not a shooting guard worth taking at 6. Reed Shepherd was the only Castle and Reed Shepherd were the only guys that can play shooting guard. So there's not a shooting guard worth taking here at 6. I do think this pick could get moved. If a pick in the top 10 gets moved, it's probably going to be this pick at number 6. Because there's a lot of teams that need centers. Klingen's still on the board. Edey's on the board. I think Edey will be picked right after Klingen. But yeah, I mean, .6'8", 206. He's added 6 pounds of muscle.
Saying that Memphis is trying to jump.
Well, Memphis only had 2 centers on their board in the top 10. One of them was Sarr and the other was Klingen. Memphis is not high on Edey, according to Cole Baggett. So Memphis does not think highly of Edey. That's why they're trying to move up. I don't think they're going to get the pick, but I understand the thought process entirely. I mean, remember, Memphis got Gigi Jackson, who most had a first-round grade on in the second round last year, and he's now a starting power forward. They're moving Jaren Jackson from power forward to center unless they can get Klingen here. That's basically what I've heard with the Grizzlies. I think he's an all-star at best unless he fixes his weaknesses and works on his foul trouble. Like, he's got to take less fouls. That's my big thing with but I do think if Charlotte, I think Klingland's going to be the pick here. Question is Charlotte going to pick him with there's not a shooting guard worth picking at 6 here from a need standpoint. Is Charlotte going to take the best player on the board anyway, or are they going to move the pick? I think Klingen's coming off the board here, Joey. It's just a matter of what's going to happen. Let's find out. Type in Hornets on Twitter. Damn, the Hornets suffered the fate of the Carolina Panthers. Draft goes to commercial before their pick. At least Dave Tepper's not running the Charlotte Hornets, okay? Just be thankful Michael Jordan did not sell the Charlotte Hornets to Dave Tepper. Because if he did, this franchise would be the Hornets would be twice the disaster they currently are right now if Michael Jordan had sold the Hornets to Dave Tepper. I'm not even joking, Joey. Tepper is that bad of an owner. I mean, the fact that I'm acknowledging him on our NBA draft stream, I should be fine for that, personally. This is saying Memphis is traded up for Klingen at 6, and that Memphis has acquired his trade rights. And this is NBA the Bad. They have 332.8 followers, only following 736 people, but NBA the Bad is reporting that Memphis has traded up for Klingen at 6. And that Charlotte's going to draft him, but his rights are going to be traded to Memphis. So that I'm already preparing for the possibility of the first trade happening. I'm gonna type Memphis Grizzlies in the news ticker, but I'm not gonna make it final until the trade is official. Because I think we are gonna have a trade here. Tijdain Salute out of France, according to Brent Siegel. French player. So it is Tijdain Salute, the French player that I mocked the Sacramento Kings at 13. That is officially the 6th pick in the draft. Small forward from France. So after drafting Brandon Miller at 2 a year ago, the Hornets double up at small forward because they lost Miles Bridges. Miles Bridges is a UFA. They know he's not coming back. So how do you feel about that pick? First reach. Don't hate the pick, but Tijdain Saloon is a guy who's seen as really raw. Probably not going to be ready to start for at least 2 years. So, I mean, I do think Memphis is going to try to move up to 7 with Portland if Saloon is the pick. And it sounds like he's going to be. Because you drafted Brandon Miller last year. He played 63 games. He did a good job as a rookie. And now you're doubling up at the position, and you're basically taking a bench player at 6. So, I don't get it. But he's also incredibly raw. He can shoot from anywhere on the floor, but he's got to improve his defense and ability to generate assists despite being a really good scorer. He does do a good job using his basketball IQ to high point the basketball, anticipate where it is, and steal the ball. I think he's the perfect bench player. I just don't know if this is the player I would pick at 6. I'm going to give it a C grade because I don't hate the pick. It's a solid pick, but I don't think it's a spectacular pick. I mean, you can make an argument for C+. I definitely think it's slightly worse value than Rasacher at 1. I don't hate the pick, but it's a reach. Taking the 13th best player at 6 is a reach, and I feel like it's a worse pick than the number 1 pick with Rasacher, which I gave a B- to. So I feel like at the bare minimum, I have to give this a C+. But I'm going to give it a C, an even C. But if Joey wants to talk me into giving it a C- or a C+, I'm going to give him the floor.
I don't think there's much to talk into here.
So you kind of agree with my thought process that this should be a C, an even C.
He might have been the 3rd or 4th best player in France.
He was the 3rd best player in France.
Yeah, so, you know.
Victor Wembanyama had such a historically dominant rookie year that we're seeing teams take guys from France hoping for the same result.
Nothing against guys from France. Really good basketball players, and I have beat them up in the past, but it is a little bit ridiculous that they're going this far.
Yeah, I'm basically taking my notes on yeah, they have Grant Williams at power forward, who wasn't bad when healthy, but outside of Brandon Miller, nobody else in this starting 5 played more than 22 games. LaMelo Ball, Grant Williams, and Mark Williams all played 22 or fewer games this past season. So to dismiss the injuries you've had and to take a player who doesn't even fill a need, I feel like that's fiscally irresponsible. And that's the argument you can make for why my C grade is too low. But I'm still going to leave it as a C. I'm not going to give Charlotte a C- or give their franchise shit for this pick, because I don't think that's the right thing to do. But I am going to give them a C grade because I do think they could have made a better selection. I do think there was better value on the board. And look, Klingland was the best player on my Buzelis 5, Klingland Neck at 3, so B+, B, B-, C+, C. Yeah. So I had 7 players ahead of Saloon on the board. So the C grade is final. Just double checking my bases before I jump to conclusions. But some have called him the French Giannis. That is how high his ceiling is. So if you think he's going to be a French version of Giannis, I can't really blame you for taking him at 6 if he becomes as good as Giannis. But that is what I disagree with the consensus on. I think you're on the same page with me there, Joey. You think the Giannis comparison is really overblown and saturated. Yeah, Donovan Klingler. Klingon should be the pick here at 7. I don't know what Portland's going to do now because they need. I felt like their biggest need was small forward depth, but they traded for Denny Avdija, who's going to be competing with Shaden Sharp at the 3. So like, I don't really know what they're going to do. It sounds like Klingon's going to Portland here. Could be a trade as well. I haven't really looked at the pick too much because I want to make sure I have. Okay, so we did update the news ticker. It is Donovan Klingon. So Donovan Klingon was the second best player on my board behind Buzelis. And, you know, there were reports that DeAndre Ayton was unhappy in Portland. When he first got to Portland, there were reports that DeAndre Ayton, the former Phoenix Suns center that went number 1 overall, he would go into a mattress discounter store that went out of business, and he would sleep on the waterbeds. That's how miserable DeAndre Ayton was when he first got to Portland. When he first got traded from Phoenix to Portland, that he would go into a mattress discounter store that went out of business at 2 a.m. and he would sleep on the waterbeds. If this is to push DeAndre Ayton so that his morale is higher, I love the pick. And Klingland's favorite hobby is fishing, so maybe you take DeAndre Ayton fishing with you so he doesn't sleep on any waterbeds at mattress discounters. We can't have that. You took on that contract, and I think Klingland's the perfect backup to Ayton's. So Klingland could show Ayton how to have more fun off the court in Portland, and Klingland can learn from a former number one pick in Ayton. So I do think this is a really good fit for Portland here, Joey. How do you feel about the selection? This is the number 2 player on my board. I'm going to give it an A, but not an A+. I mean, there's a number of directions Portland could have gone. And for those saying I haven't updated the picks, no, I've updated the picks. I just haven't updated the live stream because the picks are just flying in at this rate. And yeah. So I'm just trying to get everything. I do like Klingland here to Portland. And, you know, I do like the Denny Avdija addition for depth. I like the fact that they brought in Klingland. You know, and the Wizards now have number 14, so I think they're in a great spot as well. And I like the fact that Portland's going after bench players. Yeah, Shane Sharp should be the 6th man. So yeah, Donovan Klingland goes to Portland. And Portland, I know Portland does not have good luck with centers. Bill Laimbeer, Greg Oden, now Donovan Klingland. I hope I didn't curse Klingland, and if I did, Joey is going to roast me for it on the podcast. Not tonight, but on a future episode, maybe. But yeah, you know, I do like Klingland. He came off the bench his first year. He started this year, led Connecticut to 2 titles. I do think this is the right player for Portland at 7. So what does San Antonio do at 8? Because Matthias Buzelis and Dalton Knecht are both on the board here. And I do think that changes things in a big way. Jordan saying that Klingland's going to somehow fall to the Oklahoma City Thunder. Nope, that's not going to happen. Buzelis. Spurs do have so many good options here, but I'm thinking it's either going to be Dalton Knecht. I don't see the Spurs doubling up at point guard, Joey. And honestly, there have been talks the Spurs want to move this pick to get something. I could see them trading down. If they want another 2025 first, I could see them trading out of this spot and getting another first. Yeah, you got Tim Duncan chilling in the Spurs draft room. I think it's kind of cool, actually. So Spurs haven't turned in the card yet. But I'm thinking it's got to be Matas Buzelis or it's going to be Dalton Connect. I really can't see them going any route. Both their small forward, both their sixth man and their starting small forward got injured. So they lack depth at forward. They're showing a screenshot of Rob Dillingham, but the Spurs already drafted a point guard at 4. I do not believe they're going to draft another point guard at 8. Just doesn't make sense to. And they're letting the Shams is saying Rob Dillingham is the pick at 8, but he could be on the move to Minnesota, sources say. So Minnesota's trying to move up from 27 or 28 to number 8. The Timberwolves are trying to move up 20 spots in the draft for Dillingham. That's according to Shams Charania. But at this point, the pick is Rob Dillingham. So, that's officially official. The Timberwolves have 27. To move up from 27 to 8, I would think that's going to require 3 or 4 first-round picks, Joey. I'm thinking Minnesota would have to give the Spurs a first this year, 2025, and 2026, the bare minimum, if they wanted to move up into the top 10, Joey. The bare minimum, because NBA, you can't pull off like a Julio Jones trade in the NBA draft unless you mortgage 3 first-round picks. You just can't. So, Rob Dillingham's the pick, but, are you all right, man? I'm checking on, I'm on. I appreciate Joey calling in, and Emmanuel Watson will be here after the draft to recap the first round with me. But yeah, the pick is Rob Dillingham, Joey. But from what I've heard, Minnesota's trying to move up from 27 to 8. They're trying to pull off a Julio Jones type trade to move into the top 10 for Dillingham. That is from Shams Charania of The Athletic. This pick could be moved to Minnesota. But I think in order for Minnesota to do that, they would either have to trade Conley and a first away, or they would have to trade multiple firsts. And when I say multiple firsts, I think a minimum of 3, Joey. Bare minimum of 3, because you're picking at 27 this year. So I think you'd have to move 3 to get your guy. How do you feel about that? He's going to be the backup point guard to Castle, though. Yeah. But he can be a backup to Vassell, too, because he's got experience at both guard spots.
He's a good shooter. He reminds me a little bit of his offensive game outside of his really good ball handling. Reminds me a little bit of John Paxson a little bit. Maybe not exactly Paxson, but somebody out of a Paxson mold.
I'm going to give the Spurs an A-. You could argue it's a reach, but the Spurs have drafted well enough to where they've earned the benefit of the doubt. I thought Jeremy Sochan was a reach 2 years ago, but he made an impact and scored over 10 points a game at power forward. He actually started more games than Wembanyama as well last year. So it was Sochan, not Wemby, that led the Spurs in starts. So I'm going to give the Spurs an A- here since Dillingham's the third player on my board behind Buzelis and Connect. So because they're using it as a depth piece. You can argue it's an A or an A+ grade. I definitely respect that opinion. But when I'm grading players, I'm grading the players based on where they're ranked. I'm taking value, not just need into account, but I'm taking value into account. And third best player on my board usually does get an A- for me. But I think you can make the argument for an A or an A+. You could definitely argue A or A+, Joey. That's what I'm getting at with Dillingham. And the argument's warranted. It really is.
That's just the thing if that happens.
Or you,
Yeah, if the third best player on your board is number 3 and he gives a number 8, of course that's an A.
this is the guy Cole Baggett wanted Memphis to pick at 9, but he goes one pick earlier than expected. But both Dillingham and Topic are projects defensively, but Dillingham is a better mid-range shooter, and Topic's medicals definitely played a role. And his offensive profile is very similar to Trae Young in Atlanta, but he'll be a bench player. I don't think he'll score as much as Young did. But, you know,
Memphis tried their hardest to trade up, and they ended up getting my best player on the board.
they got Zach Edey, didn't they?
Yeah, Zach.
I feel like Memphis only needs a center to round out that starting 5. But Cole Baggett did not want Zach Edey. He didn't want Edey, but I knew Edey would go to Memphis or Utah. I just knew because both those teams needed centers to round out their starting 5. So thank you for leaking that pick. That is very appreciated.
They got the best player in this draft,
I
in my opinion.
yeah, and this is the so yeah. I do love this fit here. I'm probably gonna give Memphis an A+. I'm gonna bump Dillingham up to an A because this is a player Cole wanted.
Yeah, and San Antonio is going to be getting, according to what I'm hearing here, 2030 and 2031 first round pick.
Are they trading Dillingham to Minnesota? Is that what you've heard? Because I've heard Shams Charania say Minnesota's trying to trade for Dillingham's draft rights. Have you confirmed there's a trade?
That's what I heard.
I will,
Yeah, that's what I heard.
if that is the case, I will change the write-up to Minnesota. But I've got to confirm it first myself on Twitter. Timberwolves traded a 2031 unprotected first and a 2030 pick swap, top 1 protected, if they win the lottery for Dillingham. So Minnesota, even though Dillingham put on the Spurs hat, he's heading to Minnesota. So great haul by the Spurs. And Dillingham goes to a situation where he learns under Mike Conley Jr. So I love that fit. Yeah, so basically, I'm just trying to find my notes on the Minnesota Timberwolves here. And once I find those, I will copy and paste those notes and add them to the draft results page because I know Zach Edey going to Memphis is a little bit of a surprise, but I do think there's some really good value here. And the draft trade is going to have me a little bit behind. So I do apologize for that in advance because draft trades throw me off. And Shams hinted at a draft trade here, but I wanted to confirm it first before assuming anything. I wanted to confirm it, and now that we've confirmed it, So Minnesota moves into the top 10. This feels like the Julio Jones trade, except you're instead of moving up from 27 to 6, you're moving up to 8, and you're not giving up 27. So yeah, that's an A for me for Minnesota. Because I think Dillingham's the perfect successor to Mike Conley Jr., but he doesn't pass or defend like him yet. And Conley will mentor him and get him ready for that. So Zach Edey's an A-plus grade. That is no question. I know Cole is not a fan of Zach Edey here. I kind of speculated on the possibility of Edey here, but Cole's like, no. They can't go Edey here. No. But I think Memphis realized their top two guys, Klingland and Dillingham, were off the board, so they took Edey. And Cody Williams, Colorado small forward that I mocked at 11, goes to the Jazz at 10. He could potentially take over for Lauri Markkanen at small forward next year. And I think he's the third best center in the draft. But Memphis needs a center, so I'm giving them an A-plus grade. Even though I probably should give them only an A grade. Emmanuel Watson does not like Zach Edey. I think Zach Edey is going to be a bust. This is why, and we're having Emmanuel on later tonight after the draft ends. We're going to have Emmanuel Watson on the live stream. He's going to call in through my cell phone and recap the first round, give his opinion on stuff, and we'll promote his show, Sports Head Radio. That'll be, I'm guessing Joey's going to stick around for the lottery. Maybe he'll stay up until the Lakers pick at 17, but after that, he's probably going to call it a night. Because I could see why the appeal to stick around wouldn't be there after Zach Edey is number one player being picked. I think, how is the top 5 going to shake out, and where is Edey going to fall to? And if Joey does stick around, it'll probably be until the Cavs at 20, and then he'll leave after that. Because I don't see you sticking around for the entire first round. I admire the hell out of your loyalty, but I also don't see you sticking around for the entire first round either. But we appreciate you having you on, and we will recap these picks, the ones you missed on July 5th. That is next Saturday, because this Saturday the NHL draft had to move everything back thanks to the NBA making their event a 2-day event, which I really don't understand. But hey, it is what it is. We adapt, we persevere, and we go from there. Yep. These picks are flying in. I'm getting the Zach Edey right up tight, and then I'm going to copy and paste the Cody Williams pick. The Bulls do have their pick in. All right, so Zach Edey is the pick. I can update the news ticker later. I'm going to try to not fall behind multiple picks. And Cody Williams is the Jazz pick at 10 with Lauri Markkanen in a contract year. They do need a center. but there's not a center worth taking here. And the Jazz might want to do a multiple-year rebuild with Lauri Markkanen set to be UFA next year. Maybe they trade Markkanen for a center. Maybe that's the thought process here. I had Williams at number 11 on my board. He's the number 3 player on my board. I'm going to give this Jazz an A- here. I don't have an issue with this pick. I just think Dalton Neck and Matas Buzelis are better players. But Danny Ainge has a good track record, so I'm not going to give the Jazz anything worse than an A-. And I had Cody Williams going to the Bulls at 11. Cody Williams is kind of a tweener, 6'8", 185. Definitely going to have to put on some muscle. So I did update that. So Zach Edey, Cody Williams, going to try to update the news ticker as quickly as possible. And Cody Williams, that's official. So and I'm going to make sure I have everything for Memphis at 9. Yes, I do. All right, so the Bulls are on the clock at 11. I'm sure the pick's already been leaked on Twitter. Let's find out. Let's type in Bulls on Twitter. Buzelis, Matas Buzelis, my number 5 player, goes to Chicago at 11. A+ for the Bulls. Can't believe the Bulls got a top 5 player at 11. What a steal. That is a steal. I mean, you don't have to like Matas Buzelis, but to get a top 5 player at 11, that's a bargain in my opinion. So I do love the value here. So that is officially official. The Thunder are on the clock. But yeah, the Bulls are in an interesting spot here with their starting 5. I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens as this draft progresses. So it's just Ignite. That's ignite.gif. So yeah. And Matas Buzelis is interesting. I did have him in my top 5, but again, you have Kobe White at point guard, Josh Giddey at shooting guard, Zach LaVine at small forward, and Vucevic. There's been a lot of trade rumors, but yeah, Lonzo Ball's expected to be back with the Bulls next season, but he's going to return. Kobe White is your backup point guard, so you do have some stability there. And DeMar DeRozan wanted $40 million a year for 3 years, and the Bulls only wanted to give him 2 years. So I think that played a role in this pick at 11, Joey, because DeRozan was the Bulls' leading scorer. He had over 20 points a game. But the Bulls wanted to give him a 2-year deal. He wanted a 3-year deal. But he also said he was tired of losing his press conference, which may mean he's leaving since the Bulls didn't hand him what he wanted. And that's fine. Just reload. That's what the draft is for. And, Zach LaVine can play small forward or shooting guard. You have Giddey. You have pieces. You're starting to build your bench up. I do love the Buzelis pick for that reason. And Dalton Connect is still on the board. Oklahoma City could be getting Dalton Connect at 12. I would think that's the pick. Are they showing a screenshot of Dalton Connect, or are they showing Nikola Topic? I would think Dalton Connect. It looks like one of the players in Oklahoma City is crying. Now, they're not upset, but there's tears running down their eyes. Maybe they are upset. Now they're blue. So that was Matas Buzelis. He was crying as he fell to the Bulls at 11, played in the G League. That was Buzelis crying. There's a rumor that the Phoenix Suns have traded Kevin Durant back to Oklahoma City for number 12. That would be hilarious if that happened. That would be, I think that would break the internet, because it was Durant who left Oklahoma City to go to Golden State. So if Oklahoma City moved this pick to get the rights to Kevin Durant, I think that trade would break the internet. And Oklahoma City's taking Nikola Topic, the guy you compared to Joker at 12. Nikola Topic, and they drafted Kassan Wallace last year. They have two good point guards. I really don't understand the thought process in taking Topic, but if he recovers from his injury and he becomes the guy people think he can be, you're getting a really good backup, maybe even a better backup than Kassan Wallace behind Shai Gilgeous-Alexander at 12. And that was Buzelis crying after the Bulls drafted him. He's great, but he only shoots he doesn't play mid-range, and he doesn't defend well. He doesn't shoot good mid-range shots. He shoots short range, and he hits threes like Luka. I can see why you compare him to Luka, but I can also see why West thinks he's a borderline starter. But you have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the MVP runner-up, as your starting point guard. Giddey, I'm saying Topic could start, but it's probably going to be on another team. It's probably not going to be on Oklahoma City. He's, yeah. And you've got Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. If Topic develops, you have leverage in the contract negotiations. If Kassan Wallace or Nikola Topic develop into 10-point-per-game scorers, you're going to have more leverage when Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's contract comes up. And if they don't, Shai has all the leverage. But right now, Shai is one of the two untouchables in this draft. I do think Sam Presti's open to moving Topic for another first-round pick once he develops. Because we saw Oklahoma City move Giddey. I do like the pick, don't get me wrong. But I also think Topic is prone to being moved at the right price. I do think Oklahoma City would move him if the right offer came along. because I don't see them giving up on Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I don't. I like Topic, but he is a borderline starter on most boards. You got to fix his mid-range and defense, but if you do those two things, you do have an above-average starter. And with a top 5 point guard like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, you can move an above-average starter either for a player to round out your starting 5, or you can get him another first for him. But I do like the pick. I mean, at this point, Dalton Knecht was really the only player. Dalton Knecht was like, this is literal. I'd give it an A. I do like the ceiling, but he's not going to start on Oklahoma City. That's the thing people got to realize. They have a point guard they drafted 10th overall, and they've got Shai. But I do like Topic more than the point guard they drafted at 10 last year, Cason Wallace, who actually started a fair amount of games and played quite a bit off the bench. He was in all 82 games off the bench last year, Joey. So I don't dislike the pick. I just don't know where his role is going to be on this Oklahoma City team. Maybe he comes in and replaces Alex Caruso at the 2, because Alex Caruso's in a contract year at shooting guard. You traded Giddey to get Caruso. Do you think Topic can play both the shooting guard and point guard, in your honest opinion, Joey? Or because a lot of people are saying he's a pure point guard. Do you think Topic can play the 2 at shooting guard? Because if you do, and you don't want to pay Caruso, you can reload and develop Topic.
I think he can play both. I think he does need work on his 2-point game. So for some reason, there was a player I forget who it was who was criticized because he shot the 2 too well.
I like Topic's short range and long range, but he's got to improve his mid range. I have not seen him make a single mid range shot on tape, in the highlights or the game film. That's the issue I have with him. I agree with your thought process on him having a 3 similar to Luka's, but the mid-range has to improve. That's the one thing I noticed. There were 0 mid-range shots in his highlights, and the highlights just show his best plays. They don't give you the full body of work. So I would give this an A, but I'm not going to give it an A+. And you could argue... And Cason Wallace was considered a combo guard, but yeah, look at all the Serbian players: Vlade Divac, Darko, Nikola Jokic, Bogdan Bogdanovic went to Sacramento in the late first round, traded to Atlanta. Nikola Jovic, 2022, starting power forward on the Heat. Serbians have a good... There haven't been very many Serbians drafted in the first round, but when they get picked, track record does kind of speak for itself. So that's the thing I'm looking at. So A for Nikola Topic. The Kings pick is in. I am going to try to get my notes on Nikola Topic. I do think Luka was more refined as a shooter than Topic was, but I think the medicals are the only reason he dropped as far as he did, because he had multiple left knee injuries. Had a left knee injury that caused him to miss 4 months, and then a partially torn Achilles, and that's probably what caused him to drop as high as he did. So, yeah, Nikola Topic is the pick. We've had no trades in the top 13. They're gonna announce the pick any second, but I am gonna leak the pick. The Anaheim Ducks brought back the Mighty Ducks logo. Devin Carter, a guy we talked about on the podcast, sounds like he will be the pick for the Kings. I haven't confirmed yet. These NBA teams, it's almost like the NBA knows some of these teams are leaking picks. So it's almost like they've told guys, look, this is the Kings. They're a small market team, but multiple people are saying it's Devin Carter. So I've got multiple people tweeting it's Devin Carter, but not like a legit insider. Sacktown Sports, Devin Carter, Providence. So Devin Carter is officially the 13th pick, and this was a situation where the Kings could have gone for value over need. And at this point in the draft, many people had Devin Carter listed as the number 1 player on their boards. I mean, Carter was a consensus number 11 player in the draft. I do think there's some things he's got to fix, but he's going to Sacramento as a backup to De'Aaron Fox. So the worst I would give this is an A grade or an A minus. I really don't have an issue with the pick if this is the guy the Kings want to take here. Yeah. And he's also the son of former Miami Heat player Anthony Carter. Yeah. I mean, he does have the pedigree. You're right. The pedigree's there. The traits that you want from a player are there. There's a lot to like on the surface. And I'm just trying to find my notes here on because I mocked him to the Lakers. He finally broke out as a three-point shooter. His floor is a bench player, but his ceiling is a high-end starter that could be a first or second team all-defense player if he reaches his peak. And with De'Aaron Fox, apparently Sacramento wants De'Aaron Fox to sign his extension now, even though he's not a UFA until 2027. And De'Aaron Fox like, no. And if the Kings don't want to move De'Aaron Fox and De'Aaron Fox doesn't want to re-sign with the Kings, if you give Carter 2 or 3 years to develop behind De'Aaron Fox, he might be able to take over for Fox when Fox wants out of Sacramento. And you're actually in a position where you have to move Fox or risk losing him. So I actually don't think this is a bad pick if that's the thought process that Sacramento has. And knowing the Kings, that probably is why they picked him here at this spot. But yeah, they've got De'Aaron Fox, Kevin Huerter, Harrison Barnes, Keegan Murray, Sabonis. They also have Malik Monk, who got a 4-year extension. So they were either going to take a point guard or a small forward, but they end up with Devin Carter. I would have drafted a small forward to replace Harrison Barnes, but the Sacramento Kings, since they have a player option or club option on Fox in 2025 or 2026, they can technically renegotiate his contract now. I think the whole thing is dumb, but that's just how it is in the NBA. And I think Dalton Knecht is going to come off the board here, since remember, the Wizards traded Denny Avdija to Portland. I think Dalton Knecht out of Tennessee makes too much sense here for the Wizards at 14. Dalton Knecht got Tennessee to the Sweet 16 2 years in a row, one of the more consistent seniors. I'm surprised he's still on the board this late in the first round. But the Wizards are getting Malcolm Brogdon, a 2029 first, 2 second-round picks, and this pick for Denny Avdija. That is the full trade according to Woj. And he probably knew this at the time, but wanted to wait until this exact moment to leak the full details of the trade so he can virtue signal and graze the attention from people. It is not. We have another surprise pick, Joey. Carlton Carrington, the Pitt Panthers point guard, is coming off the board here at 14. Wow. I had a late first on Carrington. Frankly, I'm a little surprised. Carrington was a player that checked off every box for me. So I do not hate the pick, but I'm surprised he went this early.
He's alright. Nothing wrong with him. Nothing. He's not groundbreaking or anything. So he's a player that was a nice player. 14, like you said, it's early.
I mocked him the Celtics, so I figured even though he's a project, he'd be the perfect player to groom into a starter. And the key word is groom. You bring him in under a veteran like a Ja Morant, and you mold him for 2 years. You can make him an NBA, a really good high-end NBA starter. I don't know exactly what grade I'm going to give this yet. I'm looking at my Carlton Carrington write-up, because looking at Carlton Carrington here, 13.8 points a game. He has the ability to shoot. He passes. He can defend the 1 or 2, but he's got to refine that decision-making and defense to a degree. But Washington's 2 veterans are Tyus Jones, former Duke point guard, and Malcolm Brogdon, who they traded for. And those are nice stopgaps, but if he had a guy like Drew Holiday in Boston mentoring him, I think he would have had a lot better chance of hitting his ceiling. But he made 41.2% of his field goals, 32% of his three-point shots. His floor is a bench player. His ceiling's a high-end starter. He kind of reminds me of D'Angelo Russell. He also shows some flashes of Marcus Smart with a lower floor, higher ceiling. He could develop into Washington's future point guard, but there's also a chance he ends up being a bust. So I do have mixed feelings about this pick. In most situations, I'd give this a C- or a D grade, but I do like Carrington. There's not really a glaring weakness that stands out. I'm gonna go C. I'm gonna go C, maybe C-, but I'm gonna go with another C for the Wizards here. It is a reach, but I don't hate it either after reading the scouting reports, reading the reviews. I'm just surprised he went as early as he did. I live in Pittsburgh. I can tell you Carrington's legit. He was on our radar back in October. I just wasn't sure where to put him in the mock draft, and I didn't have room for him in October. He lived up to the hype, though. It's a player that I had on my radar very early in the year. I'm just kind of surprised he went as high as he did. So, his second cousin's Rudy Gay.
He needs to do better at working without the ball and his overall shot.
Yeah, he's got to refine his passing and defense. I don't think he's got to refine his shooting as much, but I think you can argue he's got to refine his shooting. But Washington's got 2 veteran point guards, Tyus Jones, Malcolm Brogdon in a contract year. You can develop Carrington for a year, and then
May not be as much of refining his shot as just being on a shooting regimen and shooting the ball more in practice.
that too.
If he can do that, and then working without the ball. The biggest difference between Michael Jordan and Larry Bird. Michael Jordan had to have the ball in his hand. Larry Bird didn't. Larry Bird dominated the game without the ball. Jordan dominated it with the ball. If you don't have to have the ball in your hand, you can do a lot more things.
And this is a player who had 4.1 assists per game at Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I've heard multiple NBA players say the worst thing a player can tell you when they're trash talking is, I'm going to wear your ass out. Basically, you're going to be chasing me all game. That is tough when you're trying to defend somebody all over the court and they don't stop. So, you can play without the ball. I mean, he can learn that. He can get some shoots in. It'll be a good thing.
But Carrington was Pittsburgh's best player on a very heater on the clock at 15. I want to thank Joey for calling in. If we find out who the Heat took, I'll reveal that. But at the same time, Jared McCann out of Duke. That's one. Jared McCann is the pick. So Jared McCann, the Duke point guard that I had. Jared McCann, the Duke point guard that I had, ahead of Carrington, goes 15th to the Heat. So that is officially the pick. It's Jared McCain out of Duke. I think this is a little bit of a reach. I think we're at the point in the draft where we're starting to see some reaches. McCain's a guy who was on the brink of being a lottery pick, so I don't hate the pick, but in terms of value, it is a reach. I'm not going to lie. I feel like the Heat needed a power forward more, and they really blew an opportunity to reload at that position by going for value over need. And, if you get a good starter to round out your starting five, your window to contend remains alive. I think the Heat threw their window down, flushed their window. You don't have point guard depth, so I guess there is a case for taking the decision making with McCain is woefully bad. So while it's a reach, I don't think it's a big reach by any stretch of the imagination. I had McCain a little bit higher on my board. So I'm going to go with a C grade for C plus for Jared McCain. Maybe that's Duke bias talking. I am a big Duke fan, but at the same time, I just do not like McCain as a passer. I love him as a shooter. I think his defense is up and down. His defense is up and down. He has spurts where he does well defensively. He has moments where he struggles defensively. And he's versatile enough to play either guard spot. But the decision-making is just woefully bad to the point where I'm going to give this a C grade. I'm not really enamored with any particular player at this point in the draft. Another C grade. But yeah, that's the pick. That's the top 15 guys. I'm going to copy and paste the top 15 to other. Dalton Connect is going to be the player we add a photo of here. Dalton Connect is a player that I'm going to get a photo of right now. Because Khalil Ware, okay. Khalil Ware, okay. All right, hold on a second, guys. Frickin' media lied to us on Twitter. Twitter fucking lied to us. So Khalil Ware is and he's going to go to Miami as a backup to Bam Adebayo, who just got extended today. So yeah, it's almost like the Heat waited for us to post our grade, read our grades, like, no, we gotta take Ware. We don't want Draft Utopia to roast us or tear us a new one. And there is a chance Khalil Ware ends up playing the 4 at power forward. I'm going to bump this up to a B grade because B minus, because while it's a reach, it's not, it's not as bad of a reach. So this is officially official. This is why you don't wait to. This is why you wait to see what the pick is going to be, and then you take affirmative action afterwards. But Khalil Ware officially the pick at 15. Yeah, so we got Ware. Khalil Ware ends up being the pick at 15. So we're going to find a Dalton Connect photo here. Dalton Connect, we got to find a Dalton Connect photo. A Dalton Net photo here at number 16. Dalton Net is a player that was in my top 10. He's still on the board at 16. This is ridiculous. So basically, we're getting a Dalton Connect photo. Yeah, but Dalton Necht has made it to 16. I do believe, from a value standpoint, he gives the Sixers a day one starter and a forward they can build their team around. Yeah, only 30% of my emails are have been sent, but yeah. It is a JPEG. Thank frickin' God. So Dalton Knecht, we're gonna make this the photo for the NBA draft results webpage. Dalton Connect was number 8 on my board. So whoever drafts Dalton Connect is getting an A+. That's not even up for discussion. It is. I am basically handing out an A+ to any NBA team who is smart enough to draft Dalton Knecht at number 16. Dalton Connect should come off the board very shortly. Yeah, and I've got a photo of Dalton Connect. We're uploading it to the site right now. Whoever grabs Dalton Net is getting an A+. And you look at our NBA draft results webpage here, you'll see Ron Holland, you'll see Reed Shepard, and you'll see Sarr, all going in that top 5. And Ron Holland, I might give this an A+. I might give the Pistons an A+. So, I just really like Ron Holland. We had a photo of Ron Holland. I just want to confirm this is Ron Holland before I change the grade. Yeah, I mean, Ron Holland. I gave it an A. But yeah, I'll stick with the A grade. But yeah, Dalton Knecht, it's gotta be. And I'm guessing it's Philadelphia. Jared McCain out of Duke. The 76ers already have Tyrese Maxey. I really don't understand this pick here. I'll give it a C grade, but I really don't understand the thought process of going with Jared McCain when you have far greater needs. You're basically drafting a bench player at 16. I think Jared McCain is limited to the one at point guard, but again, wait, hold on a second here. Yeah, I figured. The 76ers needed a shooting guard. I think McCain is a pure point guard, but he did play shooting guard in high school. So the ability to be a combo guard is there. But I felt like the 76ers had way bigger needs to address. And they blew a golden opportunity to upgrade their depth chart, in my honest opinion. I feel like there's a lot of teams that really blew that window of opportunity. Dalton McNecht, I believe McCain. I feel like Dalton McCain, I'll give this a C grade, but I feel like it's a massive reach at 16. I'm not a fan of him as a decision maker. I'm not. Um, he did take the starting point guard job as a true freshman, and Maxi's an RFA. But that's really all I see him being in Philadelphia. I just don't like the fit. But yeah, I don't really. There's not a pick that warrants a D grade, but I do think there were some reaches from a value standpoint. And looking at the Lakers, I hope the Lakers draft Dalton Net because that would be an amazing value pick here. Dalton Net, yes. I'll do jumping jacks. That is how happy I am. I'm so happy with the Lakers drafting Dalton Net. I am actually going to do jumping jacks on the live stream, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, I'm doing jumping jacks on my fucking live stream because the Lakers are about to draft Dalton Net. And I'll do the jumping jacks until the pick is turned in. Okay, how do I, yeah, it's hard to, yeah, because I don't want people to see my pants. I want people to see my enthusiasm without seeing my pants. So I'll get my sweat on, get a quick workout in here. Yeah. If this is Dalton Net, I will actually, do I have to do push-ups? If there's a certain workout you want me to do, type that in the comments section. I love the Rob Dillingham trade for Minnesota, and I'm very happy I might do. I might. That is how happy I am. So Dalton Net is a Laker. So the Lakers probably did. The Lakers probably did, but Dalton Net. This is an A+ grade for the Lakers. Dalton Net is a great pick for the Lakers. I'm very happy as a Lakers fan. I am very happy knowing that the Lakers did not fuck this up. But yeah, Dalton Net to the Lakers at 17 is a great pick. And I know my jumping jacks did delay things a little bit. Yeah, and you have he can be a backup to both. Yes, Dallas Stars, if you are watching this live stream and you get a good player at 29, I'll do push-ups on Friday's live stream. I'll even do a workout of Joey's choice during the NHL draft special if there is time before 11:30. If there is time. Those are the key words. So Dalton Neck is the pick. So he's headed to the Lakers. I'm very happy about this. 2024 has been a great year for my teams. The Patriots got Drake May. The Lakers got Dalton Connect. Cameron Brink went to the Sparks. Rakea Jackson went to the Sparks. Galaxy didn't do much in the MLS draft, but the Guardians have the #1 pick. So outside of the LA Galaxy, all of my favorite teams have yet to screw up in the draft. And the Galaxy traded their first-round pick away, and they're still in the playoffs despite that. I really feel like Orlando needed a point guard, but they go for value over need. I can't really hate on the Tristan da Silva pick since he is my #1 player, not named Dalton Connect here. I really can't hate on the pick too much. So he gives you a bench player, best player on the board. You get a bench player for Orlando. But yeah, I mean, McCann, I gave the 76ers a C grade. I think you can argue B, but I really don't like his decision making, and I think the Sixers had greater needs. I thought they would have had a day one starter had they drafted Dalton Neck. Yeah, and I got a text from my my partner. I have to. I have a platform here. Yeah, it's like I do. It's like, the good news is this draft is almost over. So yeah, I mean, no, I'm not. Even though I told her not to text me, she texts me. You can't. But yeah, I do love the surprises. Is grilled chicken any good? I mean, guys, comment in the chat room. But yeah, it's like Tristan da Silva is the pick here. This is the best player on the board, no doubt. I'll go to Denny. I might go to Denny's tomorrow and post a Denny's selfie. That is how I am genuinely that happy about the Lakers drafting. I'll give the Magic an A. I'm not going to give the Magic an A+. Do I like Tristan da Silva? Yes. But, you know, he's a combo forward. Jacoby Walter's going to be on Toronto here. And Jacoby Walter was the best. I don't know how many players outside of Tristan da Silva who I had. I think Deron Holmes is my number one player left on the board. And I think Jacoby Walter's my number two player. So at this point, from a value standpoint, this is probably an A grade if we're grading the pick based on value alone. So Jacoby Walter. So Dalton Knecht, really good value here. Yeah, but they bring in a shooting guard for depth behind RJ Barrett. That is the official pick. Jacoby Walter, though, really good value here. I mean, I like Walter as a bench player in Toronto. I think this is really good value here. And the Cavaliers are up. What are the Cavs going to do? Only 10 picks left, and I'm done for the day. Jalen Tyson, California small forward, is the pick. I had him pretty high on my board. He can play shooting guard or small forward. I had Jalen Tyson going to the Bucks a few picks later. But, you know, looking at the board here, Kyle Filipkowski was my number 2 player available. I had Yevs Missy to Charlotte. I had Jalen Tyson. So number 2 was Filipkowski. Missy 3. Mitchell's probably my 3rd best player. So I'm going to give this a B+. I'm going to give this a B+. I do like the fit. I do think it's a little early, but I don't hate the value here. I'm going to give the Cavs a B+. The Cavs are going to get the first B+ of the evening. So the Cavs are going to keep their core 4, I'm guessing. So Jalen Tyson, really nice value pick for the Cavs. But I do like the value here at 20 for him. And Yevs Misi from Baylor is the pick. I had Yevs Misi going to New Orleans at 21. This draft is going exactly as I expected. This NBA draft has kind of gone how I expected it to. Missy's the player I figured filled the biggest need for New Orleans, so the Pelicans get Missy. The Pelicans. Oh, shit. So, yeah, Yevs Misi is the pick here. So that is officially finalized. Didn't even have to take much time here to get the write-up done. Let's see what the Suns did at 22. Denver gets Deron Holmes. Wow. So Denver's trading up for Holmes. We have a trade. The Denver Nuggets are, in fact, moving up. And they are trading both 28 and 56 to Phoenix. for Deron Holmes. So that's official. We got a trade here. It is Denver. And Phoenix has 28 now. So we're updating that right now. Then break down the picks. Improvise, man. Improvise. So Phoenix Suns. So the Phoenix Suns have moved down to 28. We have our first trade. The Denver Nuggets have moved up for my top player. There are some rumors heating up, but Deron Holmes was my number one player. And the Denver Nuggets have moved up to 22. So the Denver Nuggets do officially own this pick. Did I do? Yeah. So Deron Holmes was my number one player on the board. I do think the Nuggets should have grabbed a shooting guard, but if they're happy with Deron Holmes is the only player in my top 15 left on the board. If they trust their shooting guard, this pick could work out. So Deron Holmes is in fact the pick. That has officially been confirmed. And yeah, I mean, yeah, I did tell Emmanuel Watson I'd give him the floor. All right, but yeah, Deron Holmes. It's like I do. It's like we got to get through this draft. Okay, so we got 6'9", 235. He can play the 4 and the 5. Really good bench piece. I think he's a viable substitute for Aaron Gordon. Great backup to add behind. AJ Johnson. Who the hell is AJ Johnson? And don't worry, I've updated the pick. Deron Holmes. Who the hell is AJ Johnson? Okay, we don't have a gift for the U.S. flag. AJ Johnson, I really don't know how I feel about this pick. He had 2.9 points a game. Yeah, I'm sorry. So AJ Johnson, was this guy in my mock draft or not? I'm just curious because Illawarra Hawks. I'm double checking here before because we're on pick 23. The Knicks are up. So Milwaukee took a point guard that only averaged 2.9 points per game. That would make me very irate if I was a Milwaukee Bucks fan. I will not give Jason Bale's Bucks an F grade, but I will hand them the dry cornbread. So the Milwaukee Bucks, they get the first dry cornbread grade of the evening, ladies and gentlemen. And I have zero issue with that being the pick. It is official, ladies and gentlemen. The Knicks. What are the freaking Knicks going to do here? Are the Knicks trading the pick away? Good Lord, they need a center. Starting five. Center. And it is the Wizards who are moving up to 24 now. So that is an interesting development. Keyshawn George. Yeah, I mean, I don't like this pick, but the Wizards are moving up for Keyshawn George. Keyshawn George out of the U. But yeah, okay. So the Washington Wizards are moving up for Keyshawn George here. So back-to-back dry cornbread. Now the Wizards are getting some cornbread. They traded up for Keyshawn George. I really don't understand this. I thought A.J. Johnson and Keyshawn George were the two worst picks in the draft. So I don't hate this pick as much as I hated the A.J. Johnson pick. But again, I'm not going to give either team an F grade. I am going to shower those teams with dry cornbread, though. Back-to-back cornbread grades for the Bucks and Wizards. And the Knicks have 26 now. So Wizards need the Knicks need a center. they have to come away from this draft with a center. So yeah, the Knicks haven't decided what they're going to do at 25 yet. The Knicks. Hey, call me Dadian. This is the type of pick that is going to get Stephen A. Smith on Nugenics. So Pacome Dadiet is the pick. I know the Rogaine foam joke wasn't really appropriate, but you know. So the Knicks are getting dry cornbread. Lots of teams are getting dry cornbread here at the NBA draft. Frickin' Knicks are getting everybody's getting cornbread here. It just feels like all these NBA teams want some cornbread. Oh jeez. Yeah, it's like, what are the Knicks doing at 26? The pick is in. The Knicks are trading 26 to the Thunder. Okay, Oklahoma City is moving up. So the Thunder are moving up to 26. Hopefully the Thunder do something smart here and draft a small forward, but, you know. The Oklahoma City Thunder are moving up to 26. The Knicks better be getting a first-round pick back if they're going to be freaking dealing first-round picks by trading them away. I think, no, we're going to give this a Rogaine foam grade. This pick will cause hair loss. So, Jesus. The Rogaine foam to prevent hair loss. Dylan Jones out of Weber State. I really like this value here. So Dylan Jones out of Weber State is in fact the pick. I do like the value here of Dylan Jones to Oklahoma City at 26. I do think he could potentially be a future star. I do think he could be an eventual replacement to Dort. So as far as the value goes, yeah, this is nice value at 26. I'd probably give this a B grade, but you know, it's solid value this late in the first round. I really don't have any like beef with the pick personally. So we'll give this a solid B grade here. I'll give the Thunder a B grade here. So yeah, I do like him at this spot. This is yeah. Dylan Jones, so Dylan Jones is on the board here. But yeah, 27 is the Timberwolves. What are the Timberwolves planning? What did the Thunder give up to get Dylan Jones? Five second-round picks. Terrence Shannon Jr. And that is a great pick for Minnesota. I mean, Terrence Shannon Jr. is a player that I was really high on. So not only do you get Dillingham for depth at point as a successor to Mike Conley Jr., you get Terrence Shannon Jr. as a backup to Anthony Edwards. I think he's good enough to be an NBA starter, but you get him as a bench player to Edwards in Minnesota, Ant in Minnesota. I really like the value here. I had him going one pick later. I'm going to give this an A grade for the Timberwolves. Yeah, so looking here, I do. So, that's the thing. It's like I do not compromise. Now, obviously, if I'm on a yes, so Terrence Shannon Jr., I do like him as a backup to Edwards, and the Phoenix Suns are on the clock here at 28. Ryan Dunn out of Virginia. There's a lot of people that like Ryan Dunn. I'm not one of them personally, but you know, I had a late second on Ryan Dunn. I'm giving the Phoenix Suns the first F grade of the evening. But yeah, I'm looking here. We've got the Phoenix Suns at Kyle Filipkowski's still on the board. That's the crazy part of this. Filipkowski still hasn't been picked yet. The Lakers could get Filipkowski in the second round. That's the crazy part of this. As much as I like Bronny, if Filipkowski's there at 55, I'm passing on Bronny. This is just freaking insane. He's still on the board here. I will give the Suns a D plus for Ryan Dunn here in the first round at 28. So a D plus for Ryan Dunn here. But yeah, looking at these picks here, the Knicks turned that pick into 5 seconds. Yeah, so we're Dylan Jones is the pick, and yes, Ryan Dunn is the pick here. So I'm gonna give the Suns a D minus here. Isaiah Collier, I had Collier going to the Knicks. He goes to the Jazz. I really like this pick for Utah here at number 9. I do think the Jazz needed a center, but I really can't hate on Isaiah Collier this late in round 1. Because I had Collier going to the Knicks at 25. But to get him at 29 this late in round 1 is an absolute steal for the Utah Jazz here. This is really good value here by the Utah Jazz. But yeah, the Utah Jazz, they needed to come away with a center, and they end up drafting Collier here. Rogaine foam. So yeah, very entertaining way to end the first round, I guess. It's been all over the place. What are the Celtics going to do? I think Kyle Filipkowski at this point would be a great addition. Baylor Shireman. Baylor Shireman. I'm not sure how I feel about Baylor Shireman on the Celtics as a Baylor Shireman. So Baylor Shireman is officially the pick. So Baylor Shireman's an interesting selection here. I'm gonna call Emmanuel in just a few minutes and get to the bottom of this. But yeah, that's gonna do it for round one, folks. We got the entire first round done. And frankly, it only took like 3 hours. I've been getting some texts from my partner, my Allison. Yeah, I don't know how she'd feel if she found out I was talking about my personal life on the live stream, but yeah, I've had a secret girlfriend for about 3 months. Haven't really gone into grave detail about that because I try to keep my work life and personal life separate. But yeah, um, Celtics. Um, Celtics go with Baylor Shireman. Interesting pick. He really doesn't bring much to the table outside of 3-point shooting. I'm going to give the Celtics a C plus to end the first round because it's a better pick than some of the picks. Some of the picks at the end of the first round are horrible, by the way. But Baylor Shireman's not bad compared to those picks. I'm going to give the Celtics a C minus to end the first round. He's going to Boston. He'll get to play under Jaylen Brown as a bench player. I don't think it's a horrible fit. It's a reach, but it's not a horrible fit. Yeah, so Baylor Shireman, the Celtics, it is a luxury pick. But yeah, I'm going to type that right up here. I figured the Celtics would get like a successor. Yeah, so Kyle Filipkowski's still on the board. That'll be the player for day 2 tomorrow. But yeah, let me refresh the page here. And I'm also going to copy and paste the picks for round 1 in the news ticker for tomorrow. And Kyle Filipkowski, the Duke power forward / center, will probably be our cover photo for round 2 tomorrow. I didn't think Filipkowski would be there. What's going on? Emmanuel Watson of Sports Head Radio is in the facility. Just wrapped up the first round of this NBA draft on the live stream. I thought the top 15 was. I thought the teams in the top 15 drafted pretty well. Nobody drafted bad enough to get anything below a C grade in the top 15. And then we had a very entertaining back half of the first round. The Lakers clearly the big winner at 17 in the back half of round one. But a very entertaining way to end the first round. Milwaukee and Washington both getting dry cornbreads at 23 and 24. The Knicks getting the first ever Rogaine foam grade for drafting a player that would cause Stephen A. Smith to go bald. So that's not a shot against Stephen A. I know it sounds like a shot against Stephen A. That's not a shot, but this is a player that's going to cause Knicks fans to buy Rogaine foam. So just saying, Spike Lee, you better get some Rogaine foam. You might have to sneak it past security at Madison Square. But Emmanuel, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing good. I don't know if you can hear me.
I can hear you perfectly, man.
Oh, yes. I'm doing good. I enjoyed the draft. Obviously, there were some surprises. The first three wasn't really too much of a surprise for me. At all. I think the biggest surprise for me was Rob Dillingham being traded to Minnesota out of the first 10 picks. My personal opinion. I thought the Spurs could have used the point guard,
I love Stephon Castle, and from what I heard leading up to the NBA draft, Castle was their man. He can play both point and shooting guard, and Castle's the guy the Spurs had locked in on throughout the entire draft process. They were going to pick him at 4 no matter what. That was the intel I got from YouTube, and I know there were a lot of mock drafts that had Topic or Dillingham at 4. It was all over the place, but I'm not surprised. We had intel Castle's going to be the guy they wanted at 4. I thought the Pistons were going to take Buzelis because the agent of Buzelis is the son of the president of operations, but they ended up going with Ron Holland, which is a pleasant surprise. Saloon.
Right, that was a shock too, yeah.
I didn't hate the pick. I gave it an A grade, but it was kind of a. I felt like Holland was a guy that was going to fall a little bit further. Like I mocked it a 7, but that was before the trade this afternoon. Because he had 3 fouls in 18 of his 29 starts. Ron Holland.
Yeah. To me, another. I felt like Donovan Cleveland, he fell a little bit. You know what I'm saying?
Portland. Yeah, Charlotte took Saloon at 6. That was a big surprise. Saloon, I had him at 13. I think he does have upside to develop into a starter. Some have called him the French Giannis, but he's never going to be that in Charlotte. They have Brandon Miller. He was their most durable player. And they outside of Miller, nobody else started more than 22 games. LaMelo Ball, Grant Williams, Mark Williams all started 22 or fewer games. So to take a small forward at 6 when Klingon's on the board, there's all this value there. It really doesn't make a lot of sense to me, Emmanuel. I think the Hornets screwed up. They're the biggest loser. I didn't outside of Atlanta. Charlotte's probably the biggest loser for me.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And just to Donovan Cleveland to Portland, I say it was a solid pick. It wasn't the greatest. And they already have Ayton there, but maybe they need more depth at center. I felt like, I thought he was going to go to San Antonio at 8.
Klingon might help DeAndre Ayton relax because, one rumor I heard when Ayton got traded to Portland, he was so depressed. He was going into mattress discount stores that were out of business in Portland and sleeping on the waterbeds in mattress discounters. That's a rumor. I don't know if it's true or not. It sounds like it's BS, but I thought it was a funny rumor regardless.
Right.
So, DeAndre Ayton, he's got to watch Luka in the NBA Finals from the mattress discounters waterbed. If assuming they have a TV and mattress discounter. I don't know if they have a TV or not in there. But yeah, Klingon two-time NBA, two-time NCAA champion, a great bench player for Ayton. His favorite hobby is fishing. He can get Ayton out of the mattress discount store, and he's the perfect backup to Ayton until 2026. And if you develop him in that 2 years period, he might be able to take over at that point.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
And
that's absolutely true.
Same thing could be said with Dillingham to Minnesota. He's going to be a great successor to Conley.
Yeah. No, I feel like it does make sense because Conley's obviously he's getting older, so it does make sense for them to to kind of get Dillingham there. And they got Terrence Shannon, which I love that pick for Minnesota.
I gave Minnesota an A grade for Shannon because I had Shannon going to Denver a pick later at 28. He's much better defensive than Strother. But I don't blame Denver, who they traded up for. They got Deron Holmes Jr., who I mocked at 15. He was, of all the first and second round picks that interviewed on YouTube, Holmes was my favorite. I felt like he had a shot to sneak into the lottery, and he goes to Denver at 22. Memphis got Zach Edey. Memphis needed a center to round out their starting five. And now you have Morant, you have Smart, you have Desmond Bane is going to move from shooting guard to small forward. And then you have Jaren Jackson Jr. at power forward, Edey at center, and you have Gigi Jackson as a combo forward off the bench and as well as a sixth man. So Memphis, if Morant can stay healthy and have a bounce back year, Memphis is a team I could see in the playoffs next year, but it does come down. How Edey develops is going to determine how far they go. Because if Edey has a poor rookie year, they probably lose in the first round.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. Because I think Edey's development is going to play a huge role.
I think if Edey wins Rookie of the Year, this is a team that could potentially get to the Western Conference Finals, as crazy as that sounds, Emmanuel. I don't think they're an NBA Finals team, but if they play like they did when they got the 2 seed 2 years ago and Edey wins Rookie of the Year, I think the best case scenario is a Western Conference Finals appearance and they lose like Minnesota did this year. I think that's the best case scenario for Memphis, but that's a long shot as well.
Yeah. No, absolutely. But I love it. As a Lakers fan, I love the Dalton Connect pick. We need shooting, and we're bottom 5 in the league in shooting, so I actually love that pick.
I had him at 8 on my board. I'm surprised he fell to 17. Cody Williams, Utah took Cody Williams over net, and Markkanen's in a contract year. All the top 10 centers are off the board. I get the thought process. Matthias Buzelis, I had him going 5th. He ends up dropping the Bulls at 11. He was crying after he got picked. Very happy to get picked by the Bulls. Nikola Topic goes to the Thunder. Could he be the replace? I think he's probably a bench player, but there's a chance Kassan Wallace and Topic compete for that shooting guard role next year with Caruso in a contract year if he walks. So I'm not sure who's going to end up going there, but but Nikola Topic goes to Oklahoma City, 12.
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah,
the medicals are the only reason he dropped because he could have been the Spurs pick at 4 if the mid-range tape was better, if the and the Yankees-Mets game rained out. So this was a horrible night for New York fans. Not only did the Knicks screw up in the draft, the lightning delay caused the Yankees-Mets game to be delayed. But yeah, Nicole, yeah, I'm watching SportsCenter. I rarely watch SportsCenter anymore, but I'm seeing the delay happened at Citi Field. I know it's not Shea Stadium. I still remember Shea Stadium from back in the day, though. They did end up playing the game. The Mets led 7-0 in the 6th inning before Aaron Judge hit a garbage time home run.
Yeah, another home run.
Yeah, Aaron Judge. He went 2 for 2. He hit his 30th home run of the season. That game is still currently going on in the bottom of the 8th with the Mets ahead 11-2.
Oh wow. I wonder, did Pete Alonso hit a home run?
Probably. The Kings took Devin Carter at 13. I'll check after we go through all the picks. I'll check the stat line for the Mets-Yankees game. The Yankees are the favorite according to Vegas odds makers, despite being the 2 seed. Orioles are second, Mariners third, Guardians fourth. The Kings took Devin Carter. And, it's interesting, Emmanuel, because I felt like they were going to get a small forward to succeed Harrison Barnes. You have Herter and Monk. You have Murray. You have Sabonis. But De'Aaron Fox, he's not a UFA till 2027. Why do the Kings want him to sign an extension now? I don't think Fox is opposed to that. I don't think Fox is opposed to signing an extension in 2026, but he still has 3 years left in his current deal. Why rush this thing? And I think the Kings basically panicked and said, you know what? If we're not a playoff team by 2026, we're going to have to trade Fox for a King's ransom and have someone ready to go. So they took Carter. I think that played a role in things. I could be wrong on that, Emmanuel, but I do think that played somewhat of a role in this decision at 13.
I do believe that played a little bit of a role, but also there was a report stating that De'Aaron Fox, I believe he is due for an extension this offseason, but he wants to wait to see how the roster is going to be constructed this offseason before he makes a decision to sign that extension. So only time will tell in regards with that.
It sounds like, from what you're saying, it sounds like Fox will be an early season re-signing if he is a re-signing before October.
Yeah, that sounds about right. That sounds about right. But he has everything on hold right now. He's supposed to see what type of pieces Sacramento is going to get and how that's going to play out for long term. So, but, I don't mind.
I give Sacramento an A grade. I would have taken a small forward, but I don't really blame them for going with Carter. We saw a point guard run, though. The Wizards take Carlton Carrington at 14. I had him to the Celtics at 30. I gave this a C grade, but at the same time, I do really like – I'm more confident in Carlton Carrington's decision-making than I am in Jared McCann's decision-making. Jared McCann is not a good passer. His vision and awareness is not good for a point guard. He can shoot, and he defends effectively at times. He's a better defender, a little bit better in mid-range than Nikola Topic. I'm not arguing that. He is. The tape shows that, but at the same time, he is a – Topic can get you 7 to 11 assists a game, whereas McCann is just an awful decision-maker when it comes to passing the basketball. Like, way too many turnovers he had. The film shows that. It's reflective of that. But, yeah, Carlton Carrington, I gave that a C grade, and then I gave the Heat a B- for Ware. I like Ware if they play him at the power forward, but you gave Bam Adebayo an extension, and Ware's basically just going to be a bench player to Adebayo. I don't like the fit. That's why I gave this a B-.
I would love Ware to be a Laker, but everything happens for a reason. Obviously, with Connect 1 to 17, I love it. Dolphin Connect. So I'm happy he became a Laker. I mean, obviously, Ware would have been a good pick. Obviously, the Lakers too at 17, we do need a big. But obviously, we have to emphasize that in free agency.
Yeah. But I gave the Heat a B-. I don't dislike the pick, but I do think as long as Adebayo's there, he's only going to be a backup. If he wants to be a starter, he's going to have to play through his rookie deal and go get to where he's getting 10 to 12 points a game and find either a team that wants to trade for him or potentially wait. Adebayo's extension's only 3 years, but the 3-year extension would kick in after 2026, I believe, when he's a UFA, correct?
I believe so, yeah.
So that means Ware would not start in Miami unless he plays the power forward, which I do think the Heat need an upgrade at. I mean, the 76ers, as much as I like Jared McCann, he's not a good fit for the 76ers. They've got only 5 players on the roster, Embiid and Maxey, who's an RFA. The rest of their starters are UFAs. You could have gotten Dalton Connect here, and he would have been your number 3 scorer. And that, if you had drafted Dalton Connect here, I honestly think the 76ers all the things Embiid said about this team being a championship contender, I think those things may have come to fruition, but no. The Lakers capitalize off of the 76ers, and they get Dalton Connect at 17. I'm very happy about this pick. I even did jumping jacks on my live stream.
I know a lot of people had him like in the top 8 or top 10. You know what I'm saying? In regards to on their draft board, and to get him at 17 was a huge steal, in my opinion.
Yeah, I had him at 8 to San Antonio, and you get a player like this who I believe Dalton Net is, but
yeah. Hello?
I'm here, Emmanuel. I'm still here. But yeah, it's nuts.
Oh yeah.
Don't.
Also, there was this one pick. I forgot it was that forward from Virginia that got picked late in the first round. I believe he went to Minnesota. No, it wasn't Minnesota. It was
Oklahoma City, I believe.
Yeah, it was that one forward. I forgot his name from Virginia.
It might be. I think it may have been you. I don't remember. Tristan Da Silva went to the Magic. He was my best player on the board at 18. I do think the Magic could have gotten guard depth, but I can't really fault the pick. Jacoby Walter to Toronto. I like that pick. I'd give it an A. I gave Jalen Tyson a B+. I know the Cavs needed a small forward, but I'm not sure Tyson's a starter. I'm not even sure he's the best player on the board, but he was my fourth best player, and the Cavs get him at 20. So that's not bad value.
Right. Yeah, it's not bad value. So, but yeah,
I'm just trying to go. Yevs Misi, I mocked him to the Hornets at Pelicans at 21. I was like one of the only people in the country that had Misi going to the Pelicans because they needed a center to round out the starting five. They get him. Deron Holmes, the Nuggets traded up for. They traded 28-56 to get my final player in the top 15. So Strother's probably going to start at shooting guard next year unless the Nuggets do something in free agency. But I love Deron Holmes as a backup to Aaron Gordon. 6'9", 235, can play the 4 and 5. Might be able to play the 3 behind Porter, too. I just think this is a really good fit for a bench player in Denver.
Yeah. No, I agree. I actually like that pick. I really like that pick.
Because I saw his interview on a YouTube podcast, and he was one of the players that really wowed me. He's not just watching college tape, he's watching NBA tape. I love to hear that. A.J. Johnson goes to the Bucks at 33. Jordan Alexander, I know he loves the Bucks, but he said A.J. Johnson's not a terrible pick. He averaged 2.9 points per game. That is the lowest among any player in the 2024 NBA draft. There's a reason I did not include him in the mock draft. I'm sorry, Milwaukee. You are getting dry cornbread straight from Greece for your boy Giannis. You are getting dry cornbread straight from Greece. Straight from one of those, what are they, those market shops in Aladdin that they have? One of those market shops in Aladdin, the Middle Eastern market shops. You're getting dry cornbread straight from one of those market shops in Aladdin.
Oh, man. Yeah, dry cornbread alert right there, man.
You don't take a guy with 2.9 points per game, especially not in the first round. I cannot justify that under any circumstance.
Yeah.
I know you needed a shooting guard, but there were better options aboard. Keyshawn George, he had a consensus first round grade. I'm not as high on him as the consensus. So I went with back-to-back cornbread grades. The Knicks got Rogaine foam for Pacome Dedet. I gave the Thunder a B grade for Dylan Jones. I was going to give this a B- because the Knicks gave up 5 second-round picks to get him. But the thing is, the Thunder have so much capital with their first-round picks, and the Knicks just suck at drafting because they've needed a center for 5 years now. I don't trust Mitchell Robinson. He's a good defender, but he's not an elite scorer. That's going to limit the Knicks in the playoffs, and they just don't get it. They don't grasp the effects of their actions. So
Dylan Jones could be a good replacement to Dort down the road. Yeah, he's kind of raw, but he's an effective scorer. I could see him replacing Dort down the road, and if it doesn't work out, you can always get another small forward later in a future NBA draft.
Yeah. Speaking of the Knicks, what do you think about their pick?
They only made one pick. They traded They traded the 26th pick to Oklahoma City. They traded 24 to Washington, but they also traded 26 to Oklahoma City, but they got 5 second-round picks to make up for the 5 first-round picks they mortgaged away. So they at least have some draft capital, but, you know, they're not in a great spot. The Timberwolves get Terrence Shannon Jr., perfect backup to Ant. The Suns got Ryan Dunn at 28. And the Suns have, yeah, not an elite scorer, but he is a great defender. He can defend multiple positions. He's got the rebounding, shot blocking, and stealing. He's raw defensive. He's raw in offense, but he's got NBA-ready defense right now. And if Grayson Allen's in foul trouble or Durant's in foul trouble, you can bring him off the bench. He's more of a 3 than Allen is, but Allen's a more effective scorer, so I think he's the perfect complementary player to Allen off the bench. And you can also bring him in if Durant gets into foul trouble. I mean, I just don't like how the Suns owner basically said he's open to trading away draft picks for players, and he gets someone who's not effective offensively. So I did give the Suns a D-, but I think you can argue this a C grade at the worst, since Dunn is a consensus first-round pick and he's good defensively. Isaiah Collier to Utah at 29. I gave this an A-. Personally, I think Collier might be a second-round prospect based on his tape. But I had him the Knicks at 25. You get him at 29, you can definitively argue this A+ value. I gave it an A- because I think Collier is second-round tape, but I think this is a really good fit for Collier. He gets to learn under Jordan Clarkson.
Yeah. I just feel like Isaiah Collier, at times, he turns the ball over too much for me. You know, in games, I feel like that was one of my big cons on him. But if he's talented, yes, very quick, you know. Yeah, I feel like
in high school, the only thing he did well was make short-range shots and passed well in high school. Passing took a step back this year. The mid-range and long-range shots weren't as good as they were in high school at USC. But again, the defense is still a question mark outside of defending against other point guards. But you're getting him as a backup. I can't hate on the pick. I gave it an A-. And then Baylor Shireman to the Celtics. I gave this a C-. I thought there was better value on the board. But you really don't have any forward depth behind Tatum and Brown, and you're getting this guy as a backup to Jaylen Brown. And his only asset is his three-point shooting. He struggles on contested shots, struggles as a passer, struggles to defend against strong forwards, struggles in pick and roll. All of that screams backup. He's going to Boston, a team with a championship culture. He might work out there. So, as a backup, initially.
right.
So, I don't hate the pick. I think Trey Alexander is better personally. But, you know, Shireman interviewed better. Shireman did interviews and Alexander didn't. So, I guess that's why. So, my top player heading into tomorrow's got to be Kyle Filipkowski of Duke. I know you're going to call the puke. That's fine. But I'm surprised Filipkowski's still on the board. He was a consensus top 20 player. I feel like the Knicks, if they had gotten him at 25, they would have had a chance to at least make a case for winning the Eastern Conference, but they blew it. But hey, that's just my opinion. I'll look at my NBA mock and see what players fell to round 2. I know I had Filipkowski at 19. He's still there. There's the Boston College Center I told you about. Mitchell, UC Santa Barbara point guard that Jordan Allen about. I feel like he's a first round talent based on his tape. UC Santa Barbara's Ajay Mitchell's a name to watch tomorrow. Ade Mara's, I loved Ade Mara's tape in Spain. It was actually better than his UCLA tape. He could be a guy to watch tomorrow. And Fale Dante's another center that could be picked. Bobby Clintman, international player, top international player on the board. Tyler Kolek of Marquette had a really good interview. He's still on the board. I did mock a point guard at Utah at 29, but I had Kolek, not Collier. In Utah's defense, Collier was still on the board. Collier was higher on my board than Kolek. So you can argue Utah should get an A or A plus instead of an A minus. You can definitively argue that. That argument does have merit, and I had Carrington going to the Celtics at 30. So there's like 4 or 5 players that I still have first-round grades on, Emmanuel, that made it to round 2. But Philip Kowski's the only guy that was in my top 20. And Toronto needs both a 4 and a 5. They could still get Philip Kowski at 31. I have to think that's going to be the pick tomorrow with both Olynyk set to be a 2026 UFA and Podol set to be a 2027 UFA. I have to think Philip Kowski is going to be the pick at 31 tomorrow. There's really no reason for Toronto to pass on Philip Kowski. If Jacoby Walter was higher on their board and they wanted depth behind RJ Barrett 19, fine. I can't really fault the thought process there. But, Philip Kowski is the perfect bench player if you want to sub big in your lineup. Philip Kowski's the perfect role player for Toronto here at 31. And I'm sure there's some other guys they could consider as well, but I just think Philip Kowski screams Raptor. And I'm kind of surprised the Celtics passed on him because he could have provided depth behind Tatum and Porzingis if Horford retires. What are your thoughts on the first round, and who are some of your top guys on the board heading into tomorrow?
I pretty much agree with you with Filipowski. Believe it or not, he's up there for me as well. And obviously that reference that you said from Jordan was a guy. I remember you told me he's a guy to look out and watch for. And obviously one of the biggest storylines from the draft is Bronny. Will Bronny end up being drafted this time, or will he go undrafted? So that's those are basically my 3 storylines for tomorrow, and time will tell. So
I think the Lakers are going to draft him, but there's a chance someone else could end up drafting him just to piss off the Lakers or just to try to lure Bronny out. But I think the Lakers already did their homework and said we're getting Bronny at 55 if he's there. Even if somebody as good as Philip Kowski fell to the Lakers, I think the Lakers would take Bronny in that situation. And it'd be justified. Because LeBron would be playing with his dad. So, I do like the direction the Lakers have been in. I think tomorrow's going to be a fun NBA draft, and I cannot wait to discuss this with you on Sports Head Radio in the coming weeks. Anything you want to say before we wrap up, Emmanuel? I'm very happy to get out of here before midnight, because if the NBA draft had kept their two-round format, I would still be in the second round. I don't think you would have called in tonight, and I gotta get something to eat. I got a chess game with Jason Bannell, and I know Allison's worried about my safety and my well-being as far as eating food goes. But all right. Thank you for calling in, Emmanuel, and I'm gonna sign off on TalkShoe and Restream. We'll be back at 4 p.m. tomorrow. I'm gonna get a Philip Kowski thumbnail. If we can't find that, maybe we'll post a Bronny James thumbnail. I feel like the Bronny James thumbnail might actually get us more traction. But either way, I think it's got to be one of those 2 for tomorrow. It's got to be.
Oh, yeah.
For tomorrow.
Absolutely.
But, yeah. So, that's your time. I know you'll be working then. But, we'll talk about this. We'll talk about the round 2 guys. Because we pretty much covered all our bases for round 1. I mean,
yes, we did.
There were some reaches, but only reaches. There weren't any reaches that warranted cornbread grades until the Bucks 23. I'm sorry. I know you like. I know you like the AJ Johnson, Jordan, but 2.9 points per game, that's getting cornbread, Jordan. I'm sorry. I don't write the rules. It's just, that is not acceptable. Bronny averaged more points than that. Bronny would have been a better pick than the guy with 2.9 points per game. I'm sorry. That's the truth. But hey, I'll be back tomorrow at 4 on Restream. I want to thank everyone. I want to thank Joey and Emmanuel for calling in. And I want to thank our viewers, 57 viewers on Restream. I love the value picks here. A lot of GMs are saying Landry, JJ and Trey are the only untouchables. So Trae Young and Jalen Johnson are the only untouchables for the Hawks, apparently. And Tracy Porter asks who's going to be the number 1 pick. It ends up being Rasacher. But yeah, I do appreciate everybody tuning in. I'm going to sign off here on Restream. But yeah, the entire draft will be up on YouTube. I'll have the live stream for the draft. I'll have the talk show thing for the draft. So you'll be able to listen to that, and you'll get day 2 tomorrow at 4 p.m. So long. Thanks.